Welcome to another video, and in this video I'm going to solve questions that have to do with constant variations, or rather variations in general. So in our case here, we've got given that y varies directly as x and inversely as the square of z, and we're going to know how you're supposed to express this in the form of an equation, and that y is equal to 10 when x is equal to 32 and z is equal to 4. Find the value of k, and k is called the constant variation. Find y when x is equal to 20 and z is equal to 5, and as well as another case, find z when x is equal to 9 and y is equal to 5. So in our case here, we're going to follow the instruction, which is that given that y varies directly, so what you're supposed to use is that y varies directly. In other words, y is proportional to x. We're going to use this symbol here. So y is proportional to x, and at the same time inversely proportional to the square of z. Now inversely meaning it's 1 over what you've been told, which is the square of z. The square of z, be very careful here, the square of z, not the square root, the square of z. So this is the form of an inverse, or rather this is how you write the inverse of a figure or an expression in this type of equation. And how do we break it down? So y is proportional to x. Now where there's and, you put a multiplication sign, which is 1 over z squared. Now how do we get rid of our proportional symbol? We get rid of it by putting an equal sign and the constant variation. Hence this will be y is equal to kx over z squared. Remember, this is our x here because it varies directly, and this is our z squared because it varies inversely. Now, having found this equation, and we've been told that y is equal to 10 when x is equal to 32 and z is equal to 4. So you've been given all the figures for the variables that are here except what you're finding, which is k, which is our constant variation. So k hence will be equal to, so all you have to do is to find the subject of the formula of k. So how do we find the subject of the formula? I'm going to bring it here. All you have to do is to cross multiply so that you have them on one line. So this will be yz squared, y times z, which is y z squared is equal to 1 times kx is kx. How do we find k? You divide by x on both sides so that you eliminate x here to remain with k. Hence k is equal to this expression. I'm going to write it down here. Hence k is equal to y z squared over x. Now how then do we find the value of k? All you have to do, k is equal to, you replace the figures that you've been told in your expression or your question. We've been told that y is equal to 10, hence y is 10 times z is 4 squared, because this is z squared, divided by our x, which is 32. So hence our k, hence our value for k is 5. And this is how you solve the constant variation. And you're going to keep this constant variation, so I'm going to write it here. Our k is equal to 5 because you'll be using it in the questions that are coming, because it's the constant variation. It doesn't change. So this constant is what you're going to use in B and C to calculate the other values when we've changed what x and z, or what y and x is. So for B, since we've been told that k is equal to 5, and remember, you always have to keep our initial formula that we used, and we said that y is equal to k directly as x over inversely as the square of z. So this is our initial equation, and this is what we're going to use to solve the other questions. So in our case here, we're finding the value of y when x is equal to 20, z is equal to 5, and our constant is equal to 5. Hence, y is equal to kx over z squared, which is equal to Our constant is 5 times x 20 divided by z squared, which is 5 squared. Hence, this is equal to 4. And this is our value of y. Now, how do we solve the last one? Z when x is equal to 9 and y is equal to 5. Always we're using the constant, which is 5. Hence, in our case, since we're finding the value of z, so we're going to make z the subject of the formula. So y is equal to kx over z squared. We cross multiply here so that we have them on one line. So this will be y z squared is equal to kx. Now finding the value of z, so we divide by y, hence this will be equal to z squared will be equal to y z squared will be equal to kx over y. Now here, since we've got 2, we all just have to find the square root of this, the square root of that. What you've done on the left hand side of the equation should also be done on the right hand side of the equation, and this will cancel. Hence we remain with z, which is equal to the square root of kx over y. Now how do we find the value? All we have to do is to replace what we've been given, and also we're keeping the constant variation, which is 5. So in our case here, z is equal to, open your square root, your k is 5 times your x, which is 9, over your y, which is 5. For z is equal to 3. And this is how you solve constant variations. The first thing you have to do is to understand how you're supposed to express this in form of an equation. When they say y varies directly, it means that y is proportional to x, and inversely it means 1 over the square of whatever it is that you have. In our case here, we've told the square of z, so 1 over z to the power 2, and this is what we did here. So thank you very much for watching this video. If you've got any questions and you'd want us to tackle it, do leave your question in the comment section, or a topic that you want us to look at. Thank you very much.